Hey, welcome back to the Ready State. Today we're going to talk about flexion in your spine. No, it's not really about flexion in your spine, but it is getting to the bottom of a bigger problem. In a lot of our elite rowers, we actually see a broken rib phenomenon. It's much more prevalent than some of the disc back problems we have seen traditionally in our rowing community. Now, rowing, if you look at our elite rowers, they're in a relatively flexed position a lot. And the question is not, hey, does that cause back pain or not, or is flexion safe or not? We know that the spine is designed to flex and to be in these positions. The key here is appreciating that there may be a relationship between what's going on with the shoulder and the stability you can generate off of a slightly flexed spine or not. Specifically, what we tend to appreciate is that when we're in mid-range or doing a better job of maintaining a much more as organized position as possible, then we tend to see better function, especially around rotation and end ranges of these cardinal planes, press finish, front rack start on the rowing machine. But as I start to round, what ends up happening is that I start to lose access to this rotation and to this stability. So we've always said that the reason that we advocate for spines that are sort of trying to maintain the integrity of their length in whatever position you can get in, how you create the most length around your spine. And let's appreciate that the musculature, fascia, systems, breath, all of that squeezes towards the midline so that we can maintain the integrity and length of the mechanical nervous system tube. That is the best mechanics of the spine, right? So what we see then is that if I start to decay away from those positions, I start to lose function around the spine. And one of the functionalities, besides maybe poor pelvic floor tone or being able to create intra-abdominal pressure or being able to breathe because I've started to put a bunch of kinks into the tunnel where I breathe, it's just not as effective as some of these shapes where I'm able to maintain patency, is this shoulder rotation goes out the window. So a dead giveaway that an athlete who is maybe professing to have some pain here is that when they pull on that rowing machine, we see a huge slap pull where the tissue is coming to end range, and then it's stiff, and then we pull on it. And that feels and looks a lot like squatting or deadlifting. I go to pull something off the ground, boom, not gonna flex anymore. I'm at the end ranges of my flexion, and then I mechanically yank on it. Well, the same thing is true in this position, that if I surrender that, then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how strong or effective as I am, I'm just not gonna be as good at being able to create rotation. And remember, it's the rotation through the shoulder that is the relationship between the thing I'm holding and pulling or pushing on and the rest of the body. So my body will eventually hit its end range of slack for sure, and from that position I can definitely drive. But what I'm looking for is a more sustainable position. Forget that I can't breathe in this position and I finish with my elbows high, and then this is a terrible position to return in. But what we fail to appreciate in this system is that if we're using these cues to create rotation, bend the bar, break the bar, we see a lot of people do weird stuff with their hands, and we don't appreciate that the elbow is telling me a lot about what's going on, right? So I don't have to be breaking the bar and rigid, but there's a big difference between catching and having no rotational command between shoulder and body and having some. And the ability to maintain this ties that whole shoulder girdle into the torso so that it's more effective at generating and receiving force. And if you don't believe me, Olympic lift, press a dumbbell, get on the rings, do anything that requires some skill, and you're gonna suddenly see that this rotation is part of the game. So again, it doesn't have to be elbows up pointing at the sky, right? But moving towards rotation as I come back into this position is the same cues that I'd be doing if I was pushing out on the rings or reclaiming bend the bar, spread the bar, break the bar in my rotation. Now the key here is that it may not be shoulders at all. Clearly we should be working, and the more effectively my bobslayers can grab the bar, the bobsleigh, and push the machine down the track, the more effective they're transferring energy. If they're grabbing the bar and swinging around, there's not a lot of good energy transfer. It's a leak, right? So we're looking at leaks here at this elite level, but it turns out that if I don't have a good rotation, we often see the function here as the serratus slams, boom, 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 and breaks the ribs. But remember, your hips are part of this system. So if I reload, get to this end range, don't have enough hip flexion, start to reverse, how do I end up at a good, decent catch position? I can't. And so what ends up happening is the choice is the athlete is either going to move to a half stroke, which they're never going to do. So they go ahead and solve this problem by rounding. And rounding in itself is not a very aerobic position, but may not even cause back pain, but may be a terrible position to solve this issue. So if you're yanking on the rowing machine and you're not seeing just smooth integration of power, right? I'm not talking about rowing technique or where your elbows should come up or what your feet should come up or doing that. But if you're seeing someone yank on this thing, whoa, and there's a drag second where they are slack, it's the same thing as pulling on a deadlift, not taking the slack out of the system and hoping your tissues get tight enough where you can continue to the work. Appreciating basic principles and connecting the dots from our movements to our skill, or what looks like sort of silly physiology work, right? Highly, highly high skill movement. Appreciating that what happens downstream may in fact be part of the issue in the upstream issue. Long way to say, you got to be connected.